สวัสดีค่ะแอมนะคะวันนี้มาเจอกันอีกแล้วนะคะวันนี้เราอยู่นอกสถานที่ค่ะเรามีแขกรับเชิญพิเศษนะคะวันนี้เป็นเอ็กซ์เพรสเรื่องวีซ่าเนาะจากวีซ่าแอชไวท์เซ็นเตอร์ค่ะคุณไซมอนกับคุณนิดวันนี้เราจะมาคุยกันว่าวีซ่าเป็นมายังไงนะคะมีวีซ่าอะไรบ้างแล้วก็เราจะทำวีซ่าเราจะต้องเริ่มจากอะไรค่ะ So the first question so what's the most popular type of visa that like Thai who want to go to Australia need like the most popular visa.
Yeah, I think there's last records there's about 80,000 Thais a year on visitor visas to Australia. So that's very, very popular. Then a very common class is the permanent visas, which mainly for Thai people is the partner visa or the prospective marriage visa.
Yeah.
And there's an allocation roughly about 1,200 or so each year for the family class visas.
Okay. Maybe you can like explain in Thai a little bit for this question. Okay. ก็โอเคอันนี้ in Thailand so in Thai language so ก็คือวีซ่าที่สุดฮิตเลยวีซ่าที่ป๊อปปูล่าที่สุดอะค่ะ
ใช่ก็จะเป็นวีซ่าท่องเที่ยว
ส่วนใหญ่เนาะ
โอเค
แล้วก็เป็นวีซ่าท่องเที่ยวแล้วคือมีประมาณเท่าไหร่คะต่อปีหรือว่าอะไรอย่างที่เขา
เห็นก็บอกว่าประมาณ 80,000 ถ้า80,000เนาะ80,000 คนแล้วก็ลองมาก็จะเป็นวีซ่าพาร์ทเนอร์ที่คือเหมือนคนที่เขาไปเที่ยวท่องเที่ยวเสร็จแล้วเขาตัดสินใจที่จะไปอยู่ที่โน่นเลยอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะก็เขาก็จะยื่นวีซ่าพาร์ทเนอร์วีซ่าคือวีซ่าคู่ครองไป
วีซ่าพาร์ทเนอร์ก็คือเหมือนเราหาคู่ครองที่นู่น
ใช่
เป็น family
ใช่แต่จริงๆแล้วบางทีวีซ่าพาร์ทเนอร์มันก็จะมีคือแต่ละคนจะไม่เหมือนกันนะคะเพราะว่าอย่างของนิดเนี่ยก็คือเราก็คือได้วีซ่าได้ PR แล้วแต่ว่าเราไม่ได้อยู่ที่นู่นมันก็จะมีอีกกฎนึงคือมันมีแต่ละคนมันต่างกันนะคะมันก็เลยจะเยอะนิดนึงขึ้นอยู่กับว่าแต่ละคนเขายังไงคืออย่างนี้เนี่ยก็คือยังทำงานอยู่ที่นี่อยู่เราได้ PR วีซ่าไปแล้วเมื่อ2 ปีที่แล้วก็ยังอยู่ที่เมืองไทย
แต่ก็สามารถไปที่นู่นได้ตลอด
ที่ไม่ต้องทำวีซ่า
Okay so then like it's mostly it's gonna be like the travel visa I mean ท่องเที่ยวนะคะ and then so when they go there so they wanna change the to visa partner yeah that's the summary right okay so the next questions yeah
so it's very hard to change from one visa to another depending on that but I think we'll come to that
yeah okay it's very hard but like they can do it
sometimes
yeah okay so maybe the next question like why they are so popular and is it like easy to do that for the travel visas or like what the key requirements of the visa
unfortunately Australia views Thailand as a high-risk country, although it is getting better. But the Australian government's biggest concern is people on visa overstays. Like you have in Thailand, many people come here and overstay their visas, and the government's now getting quite strict. Australia is the same. So there's a big concern about meeting the criteria. Excuse me, meeting the criteria to get the visa in the first place. And that comes down to character and obviously finances and the reason they're going to Australia. But then one of the critical factors is that they need to show that they will return and have a genuine intention to return to Thailand after their travel.
Okay, so it means like we have to show like you go just only like this period and then you have to go back. And I heard from some of my friends like go there in once you go to studies or work there so they have to have like the financial statement they have to keep the money there maybe in 6 months something like that is the kinds of the financial thing
There's just been some recent changes in the visas. So for the study visa, that changed on 1st of July 2016, and then again 17. Australia has 99 different types of visas. So 99 types. So it's very complicated. The student visas before had about 6 different classes, and then the guardian visa for young students was also a different class. So they've tidied that up. They've changed the rules around finances. It now depends on the risk of the risk factor of the country that you come from, and it also depends on the institution that you're going to study at. Depending on the balance of the two of those, then you may it requires the different level of proof of finances. They have changed the rules. The good news, they have changed the rules now, so you don't have to have the money in the bank for 3 months.
Oh wow.
So that has got better.
Yeah.
But you will need, depending on which class you fall into, either standard or high risk, you may need to provide different documentation.
Okay, so it means like they change some rules of the financial thing, but they still have to require some more document there. Okay.
Yeah. As of 1st of February, in February it goes up to I think $20,320 or something that they must show, and then if they go with a dependent partner, then that's another $7,000, and then for a child they have to show certain funds, and they've got to show 1 year in advance.
Okay.
But that's specifically just for student visas.
Okay.
Visitor visas, completely different criteria. Probably the most refusals people will come across is in the visitor visa, but again, funding on that's different. Every person's visa application is different, because no two people are identical. So they look at the factors of the individuals involved, and so if somebody's going to go for a short holiday of a week, then they will need to show a lot less money than somebody that's going to go for a month and stay at the Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah.
So each one's going to be different.
Okay. So so it's interesting new. So are there any interesting visa that like Thai should know about for now? The interesting visa, except the travel one.
Yeah, the main visas for Thais, I think, that get used these days are there's some short-term skilled visas for cultural and bringing, like, you know, we've had Muay Thai fighters go down to do training and gym, you know, help people set up gyms and set up training programs.
Okay,
and
so
things.
it means we have to know someone like some company in Australia. So it's a short term. It's around 3 months. Or, okay.
So it really depends on what people wanting to do. The main ones are either tourist visa for short-term stay. Normally it's they've either got the partner or the prospective marriage visa if they're going with like relationships, or there's the highly skilled migrant visas. The skilled visas and work migration, again, as I said, there are so many classes, so it just depends on the people. Something that was good for the addition for Thailand was the working holiday visa. So that's available to young Thais under the age of 30, and that gives them the opportunity to go and live and work in Australia, although there is language testing on that, and they also have to have a degree.
Okay.
So it does limit it, and you have to get a letter from the minister or the Ministry for Youth and Cultural Affairs, and there's only, unfortunately, about 500 places a year, so it's very limited.
Okay. Okay, so it's like the short-term visa is meant for training, for involved to some like activity that is short-term and also works and holiday thing. So it's going to be two types of
short-term work is generally for something that Australia has a need in, so it's normally something of a cultural basis or a skill basis where Australia doesn't have that skills.
Okay.
So we see a lot of things like Muay Thai, or, you know, potentially I guess you could use it to bring down a Thai chef or something like that for the short term.
So it means if I have like the chef skill, so I need to contact some like restaurant there, and then the restaurant in there have like maybe they should help me to go there, or just like work it by myself, or we have to work together.
It depends on the applicant, because if you have somebody like, you know, we had a lovely young Thai lady who was an engineer, so she went through the process and she was applying for skilled migration on her own. Others sometimes need the assistance of an employer to sponsor them. So as I said, depending on the visa class, some are points tested or some are sponsored by employers or sponsored by the government.
Okay. So the is the interesting one. So have there been any change of the visa rule in the recently? Ask the question that I mean the answer that you have been answered. The recent change of the rule of the visa.
Normally it's tax law that changes a lot in the country. In Australia, the migration law has changed significantly in the last couple of years. Australia's policy on immigration seems to have changed a lot, not necessarily for the better. It seems to have become harder. Generally speaking, the policy behind the legislation from the government seems to be a lot tougher, which is making it harder for applicants. Student visas, for example, you've now got to very clearly show a genuine intention to return. So that's making it more difficult for people. And as I said, the visitor visas, they're a lot more concerned about overstays now, so that the policy seems to have got a bit stricter. They've introduced a lot of law changes or attempted law changes around what's called PIC 4020, which is public interest criteria based on 4020 is based on dishonesty, misleading or fraudulent information, and they're tightening that up and they're trying to use that to ban people. So if you put in a fraudulent application or if you put in false or misleading information, or even if you leave out important information that you know is relevant to your visa, then that can now lead to a ban of 3 to 10 years. And they're now trying to change the law to make the consequences even more serious. So, but it's changing regularly.
So is this come to one of my question is like what happens is like if like I break the rule, so I'm gonna get it in trouble now. So I can get it banned for 3 or 4 years.
You can get what can happen is, first of all, if you break conditions means you're already in Australia, so you will be deported. The Australia takes it very strictly, so not only will you be deported, it will then go against we have a character test, and so that will always give you a negative score on the character test, and policy is at the moment that you would probably never get a visa again. So it's something, Thailand, if you overstay in Thailand, you get a fine, and as long as it's not too long, you get a fine, and you have to leave the country, but you can turn up the airport, pay the fine and go. They're getting a lot stricter in Thailand now, but Australia has always been very strict. So the consequence of an overstay can be with you for life.
Yes, it's like it's become harder and like interesting to know about this point. So and can we change the visa type while we live in Australia? Like I have the study visa, I mean the student visa, so I now finish study and I want to work now. So can I change why I am there, and like maybe if I don't to go back to Thailand, so I can do like we can change.
The simple answer is it depends on the visa you have.
So it's different.
Some visas will stop you from going to other visas, and then it depends on the conditions that you have on the visa that you have. So there's a condition called 8503 no further stay condition. If that's on your visa, then it's very difficult to change or extend your visa in Australia. There are things like, if you can show compelling and compassionate reasons, if you were in a car accident, for example, you were in hospital and you couldn't leave. So that's with an 8503. If there is no 8503, it's easier, but again, it depends on the visa class. So if you were on a sponsored family visa, like a sponsored family tourist visa, and you decided to study in Australia, you could not extend that visa.
Okay.
Using your example of a student visa,
Yeah.
if you then decided to work, they
Yeah.
have a graduate visa.
Yeah.
So that is a possibility in some circumstances,
Okay.
depending on what you've studied, how long you've studied. If you were a student and then you met the love of your life and you decided to get married, then you could turn your student visa into a partner visa or a
Okay.
prospective marriage visa.
Okay, so it's like when I finished study and I got the how can I say the graduation, so I apply for a job. So that's like that the reason I can take the visa from that student to do work.
Can be possible.
Okay.
As it depends on the circumstances,
Okay.
but it can be possible. If you've completed at least 2 years study in Australia, then and graduated, then you can in a number of circumstances stay.
Okay.
But that's one of the areas they're getting tougher on.
Okay, so the question and okay, so if I become the student visa, so can I work under my visa? I mean, like what hours, what an hour specific for the student need to work, like not more than 8 hours per day or per week, something like that. Is that the do you understand?
Yeah, I was going to say
Okay.
they wanted to do it. Any 2 week, you're not allowed to study. You're not allowed to work
Yeah.
before you start studying. So if your course is going to start, you can't like go to Australia a month before and start working.
Okay.
But once your course starts, during course time, you're allowed to work 40 hours
40
in
hours.
any 2-week period.
You need to.
So as long as you don't do more, so you could do 40 hours one week, but then you wouldn't be able to do any the next week, or you could do like 20, 20, 20. As long as any 2 periods in a row, 2 weeks in a row, don't add up to more than 40,
Yeah.
it's okay. And then during school holidays, you're allowed to work as many hours as you want.
Yeah, okay. So is there in the visa is like the specific like I have to locate in Sydney or I can fly to like Melbourne, or is that any specific in the rules of visa?
It depends on the visa that you applied for.
Okay.
So you're talking about student visas. If I apply for a student visa, then when I apply, I have a certificate from the university or the education body that's going to provide my education.
Yeah.
So if they're in Adelaide or if they're in Perth, then I need to be in Perth to study there.
Okay.
With some of the work visas, we have what's called regional migration and we have state migration. So that's the equivalent of like, if a certain province may sponsor you, then you have to work in that province for 2 years.
Yeah.
If you do regional, then you have to stay in that particular area.
Okay.
So it just depends on the visa.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. If and I say the next question, if my English is not like good, so I can apply for the visa. The English like skill not like really good. Like I can't speak English. I maybe understand a little bit, so like I still can apply for the visa.
It depends on the visa.
Yeah.
Again,
okay. So what the visa requires English or what visa don't require?
Okay, so at the moment,
Yeah.
and I say at the moment because the rules are changing and things are getting harder. At the moment, for a partner visa or prospective marriage visa, there is no requirement for English language testing.
Okay.
I have a feeling in the future that will change or could change. Skilled migration, so for employment, depends on the job.
Yeah.
So for some jobs that don't need a lot of English, then the level is lower. For other jobs, like for engineering, you've got to have a higher English score.
Yeah.
Some jobs don't require it,
Yeah.
but if you want to do skilled migration, then your points test is based on a number of different factors. Your English score is one of them.
Yeah. So for example, like work in hospitality, like in hospitalities area, like work in hospital. I mean hotels, like hospital, just need like English. So that is the English requirement there.
For teachers
Yeah.
have a very high
So
standard
is
for
the
English.
test is like TOEIC exams or IELTS, TOEFL, something like that?
IELTS is the main one,
Yeah.
but they've now accepted more, so you can do PIS and a couple of others.
Okay. Okay, so this come to like, oh, okay, one more question. So if I got the partner visa and then I stay there, so we got divorced with the partner, so we can still live there, or we need to go back Thailand immediately, or can we change like the visa partner into like which visa that impossible to do to stay in Australia?
It really depends.
Yeah.
As said, immigration law is quite complicated. So it depends whether your prospective marriage visa, partner visa stage 1 or partner visa stage 2. When you have a partner visa, you have a temporary partner visa, and then you have a permanent partner visa. So it's done in stage 1 and stage 2. If you're in stage 1 or stage 2, if you've got stage 2, then you're fine. You can stay.
Okay, so you already got the permanent one.
And that's in all circumstances. If you're in stage 1, it depends on the circumstances of your case, and there are certain factors that make it possible for you to stay. So generally speaking, you would go back, but if there are some exceptions where you would be allowed to stay.
Okay.
And if you're on a prospective marriage visa, then you would have to leave.
Yeah.
Again, with some small exceptions.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's become to the last question. So how can I, if I here in Thailand, so how can I apply for the visa? Yeah.
Okay, there are two main ways to apply for a visa. It's moving electronically now for most of the applications. So you can get the government website, which has just changed again.
The government website is the Thai website?
No, the Australian government website. So that's now called homeaffairs.gov.au.
Yeah.
It used to be Department of Immigration, then it used to be Department of Immigration and Border Patrol, and as of about 2 weeks, it's now Home Affairs. So you can go there, it has visa information, and it has a link to a thing called the IMI account, and that's the online applications. Otherwise, you come to Trendy Building and you lodge it through VFS. That's the outsourced government facility to do it, and you need an appointment to do that. But because it's all complicated, then the easiest thing is just to give us a call and we'll help them out to do it.
Yeah. So give a call to like Visa as well, Center. Yeah. Okay.
We can answer it. We do a free consultation for people because it is complicated.
Yeah.
And then we can answer a lot of their questions and put them in the right way. Unfortunately, the embassy doesn't give advice, and you can't even call the embassy to speak to somebody these days.
Yeah.
And the Visa Advice Centre, so we're happy to give advice, but the VFS, the application centres, they tend not to actually give any proper legal advice. It's not something that they want to do.
Yeah. Okay. So if like if we think I want to go to we want to go to Australia, so just call to like Visa Advice Center. Like you can give like the advice, and then you can give more information about the visa. Yeah. Okay.
In English and Thai.
Yeah, both English and Thai. So you have like expert here. Okay. Thank you.